I think it worked. I just forgot to switch my camera. There we go. All right, let's see if that works. I'm like a minute early today just because I was ready, and feels like we've had plenty of technical difficulties lately with technology. So I figured I would pop on here a little quicker and make sure everything was working. So I'll give a few minutes for everybody to catch up and get on here. Adjust my laptop a little bit here. Hello, Diane. Hello, Mona. Sonia. Welcome. So glad you can join us. Marcy and Jane. Everybody's on the ball today, and I'm actually on time and not late, which is like crazy unusual. So we'll take it. Hi from Northern California and Georgia and Iowa and Australia. Bronwyn. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome. Hi, Myra. I am taking over this week for Leah. Usually Leah does YouTube Live, and I do Facebook Live on Thursday. We're going to skip Facebook Live on Thursday. I'm trying to remember. I was pretty sure it was, but I had to look at the calendar and make sure, because Thursday is Christmas Eve. So we're going to take that day off because not only do I have things to do, I'm guessing all of you are going to be busy that day as well. Hi from Quebec and Northern Carolina, Orange County, California, and Oregon. Hi, Daniel. Hi, Carol. Welcome, everybody. So we decided to take Thursday off. So I'm taking over for Leah today because she had a lot on her plate right now that she's working on getting finished. And then we will still have our scrapbook Facebook Live tomorrow morning with Joko. So looking forward to that as well. I'm gonna make sure I want to join us for that. It looks like we've got quite a few people on here. I'm waiting just a little bit to make sure Kinnery pops on here. She's going to be moderating for us today. So she'll link up everything as we use it and make sure and pick a winner. Oh, happy birthday to your daughter, Diane. What a fun day for a birthday. Hello from Dubai. Welcome, Anita. Very far away. You might win the award. Well, I don't know. I guess Australia is pretty far too. I don't know which one's further away from me. And another birthday on the 24th. Yes. Oh, how exciting. That would be like that mixed blessing of kind of fun, but kind of challenging as well. All right. I might have to close that curtain if we get too much sun. Yesterday was the cloudiest, stormiest, ickiest Washington cloudy, dark day ever. And then first day of winter, never snows here. And they said that it might snow, which I thought meant, oh, okay, there'll be a few flakes falling and we'll see them. And it stayed pretty warm and wet, but it actually snowed quite a bit. And then the sun came out. Jane, I am in Northwest Washington State. That's why whenever I post my live things, I always post Pacific time zone and then Eastern time zone and kind of cover everything in between. So, all right, I think we've got enough people on here. I think Kinnery will be joining us here soon. Oh, 1 a.m. in Dubai. Hi from New Zealand. My goodness, I feel like this is like the big international get together today. All right, Kinnery will join us here pretty soon, I'm sure. So I'm going to go ahead and get started here, showing you a little bit of what we're doing. Hold on one second here. I might just message Kinnery and remind her. There we go. That way she didn't forget and get busy. This is a very, very busy time of year. Oh, there she is. I just messaged her and then she popped on. Hi, Kinnery, welcome. All right. So you ever have an idea in your head and you just suddenly, it pops in and you think, oh, I wonder if that would work. This past weekend, I had one of those ideas, and yesterday I tested out and I was so excited. So I thought I'd share that for today's live today. So a couple of stamps, but mostly lots of Pinkfresh Studio dies, some new slimline ones, and a simple, instead of a card, I do cards all the time. I don't know if you guys get tired of that. I love cards, so I don't get too tired of it. No worries, Kinnery, glad you could join us. But sometimes it's fun to do something a little different. So this is just a fun, quick way to package up. It's super adaptable. I'm decorating it for Christmas today because it's the week of Christmas. I also know it's kind of last minute, but this could really easily be adapted to birthday or Valentine's Day or Easter when that rolls around. So I thought I'd share how to do it, and it's versatile enough that even though it's Christmas, I just wasn't ready to be done with Christmas yet. So I figured we'd go ahead and do that. So I think I have chatted enough. So let's go ahead and get this camera moved around and see if we can get things started here. So give me just a minute here to make the switch and we'll see how that goes. All right. Move my laptop out of the way there. Record. Yes, I tend to kind of stick more just to the run-of-the-mill make cards all the time, partly because it's easier. These take a little more work to photograph, so I had to wait for daylight to get a little better light, but still super duper excited about how this came out. So I've done some pre-die cutting because, like I mentioned, there's a lot of die cutting on this, and I wanted to make it a little quicker and easier to put together and not have you, we still have a little more stamping and die cutting to do, but I didn't want to have you sit and just listen to my die cut machine running constantly and grinding away. So here's what I have kind of pre-done, and then the rest we'll finish up on here. Let me move all of these little bits out of the way because these don't matter as much. And real quick, I'm just going to show you how I did the first of all, because I knew someone would ask and want to know, if you're in the US, these were just Trader Joe's Scandinavian Christmas treats. Packaged up. You can buy just normal tall treat packaging like this. What I actually used, use what you have, right? This is a slimline clear card envelope. It just happened to be what I had. So anything kind of roughly this size, little bags, whatever you could, and because this is really adjustable, you can adjust the width. So you could make it wide enough to fit like a cupcake in here, or a little thinner if you just wanted to slide like a chocolate bar or whatever. So I just wanted to kind of show you what I was using for mine. So I just dumped a bunch of them in there, and then I peeled off that tape and pulled it down. But if you were using a top, just like a tall one, you could trim it down to whatever height, tape it, seal it closed, whatever you wanted to do. But that's kind of how I'm doing this. And the colors were just kind of perfect for my project. I loved the colors on this. So I'm going to set that up out of the way for now. And so again, these are both the slim stitches die is what we're using. There's also the slim plaid would work really well for this. There's lots of different, you could do plain panels using like the stitched slim rectangles, and then you could stencil on it to kind of get a fun background. I just really love the texture on this slim stitches die, and I thought it would be super fun just to really feature that on something. So that's kind of why we're doing this. Oh, I also don't think I remembered to mention, make sure and leave lots of comments. Click the share button either on your personal page or if there's a group that you know it's allowed in, and leave a comment letting us know you did that. At the end of this, Kinnery's going to pick a winner for a $15 gift card. So you're not going to want to miss that. All right, so you can do these either way. One small thing, it's not like it really matters because these will go either way. But if you look at this little leafy pattern and these ones on each side, I wanted to keep them so that they were going straight up. So that would be the only thing I would check as far as a direction on this that really matters. Cindy, I think a baggie would work. You might have to like twist tie or zip it closed. It might be a little bit wide, but you could kind of fold it around and tape it. So again, just kind of play with it, what you have, and it would, I'm sure anything would work. I just kind of sorted through what I had and went, oh, this will work. So first thing I'm going to do at the bottom of this panel, since I've got those going the right way, I'm just going to put it on my scoreboard, and I'm going to score it at 3 inches. This gives me enough space here to decorate how I want it. I'm going to just crease that real quick, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on this one. Now, if you wanted these a little smaller or shorter, you could probably do the same thing with just the regular stitches die, which would make it a little bit wider as well. And even if you needed, like if you were using, just as another idea, if you were using the basic stitches die, if you wanted a little wider, like for a Ziploc bag, you could always score just a tiny bit on the bottom and then just add a little panel in the bottom to expand it out how wide you want. That way you wouldn't lose too much of your decorating space here. All right, so I've scored that again at 3 inches on both of those. And what this allows me to do is I can adhere those both together, and that's going to create the shape for this treat packaging. Now, I noticed when I did this, this made it a little bit too wide for me. If you were putting a bigger treat or something a little bumpier, I started with this, and then as I put it together, I just went, oh, you know what, that's too big. And that's where I love how adjustable and customizable this is. So what I did is I trimmed off 1 inch. I just measured in here, and I'm going to trim off 1 inch off the bottom of both of these. And that's going to give me just the perfect sizing for what I'm working with here for my treat. So again, customize it to whatever width you want, and you can kind of just play with it there and see how that ends up working. So that made the width that I wanted. I see lots of new people popping on. I'm sorry I'm missing saying hi to everybody, but welcome, Heidi. Glad you could join us. All right, so we now have the base. Now, before I assembled this together, yesterday I assembled it together and it was a lot harder to decorate my front there. So I'm gonna get smart this time, and I'm gonna leave these apart, and I'm gonna do my decoration assembly on here first. So I've already die cut this, and this is the newer fancy oval frame. There's also ornate oval, which is a previously released, and it was so popular that we ended up coming out with a new one. And I love all of the fun detail on this. So I die cut it here from just a simple gold, it's a matte gold foil cardstock. This one's from Tonic, and I like that it's shiny and gold, but it's a little less. I have a hard time with the really shiny gold, because I always seem to get glue or something on my finger and smudge it, and then it loses that pretty shine. This one's a little more user-friendly, I found, for me, so I kind of prefer that. So I die cut it once out of gold, and then I've already glued together, I die cut it twice from white cardstock. I purposely did not, just because it was easier. I didn't cut all of the little dots out of there. I don't know if you can see those really well. I just added a little strip of liquid glue using my liquid glue tube and adhered them together. I popped it out of the larger ones, but because of all the little intricate details on here, this is a really hard one to pop up on foam adhesive, but it works really well to die cut in multiple layers and adhere them together. And I kind of liked, again, I don't know how much it shows on here, but you can see through this, so you get that dimension through the big holes, but the little holes, you still see the white, and they're so little because they're going on a white background. It was just way easier than punching those holes out and having to be careful about where I put my glue. So I'm gonna add on this now just a few little dots of glue, pretty much at just the top and then the sides, because I don't, if I wanted to, I could add, hold on, let me focus on that. I could add a little around the outside too, but I'm really not too worried as long as I'm holding it in place in those 4 points and all the corners. Kind of, can you call it corners if it's an oval? I don't know. I don't know if that counts, but I'm gonna grab a wipe here to get the glue off my fingers, because like I said, glue, and that would ruin that mirror cardstock really fast. It's always a little bit that pokes out. I could also use a glue pen, and that might have worked a little better, but all right. All right, so that is now ready to go, and that's gonna pop on there. I'm gonna glue everything down at the end once we kind of have it all assembled and ready. So before I adhere that down, let's go ahead and move on here. Now I'm thinking, second guessing that, I'm thinking, you know what, actually, I think I do want to glue that down because I think it needs a little time to make sure it gets flat. Here's the other nice thing again, since I didn't poke those holes out, I can just slop some glue right over that whole thing, and it's a lot simpler. I don't have to go in those little detail areas. Okay, so I centered this fairly close to the bottom, and I'm just going to hold it. This is kind of a trick. I use clear stamp blocks to hold things down until the glue sets a little bit. I don't know if you can see that okay. But I'm leaving a little bit of space at the top so I have room to put my bow up at the very top. All right, grab a sip of my tea here real quick. Yes, so I'd already kind of tested it out, so I knew my sentiment fit well on there. All right, actually, and you know what, as I said that too, let's go ahead, before we stamp, let's get that bow assembled so it has a little bit of time to dry for me. Okay, I'm going to use, Leah mentioned this, I've always used either liquid glue or score tape. She likes to use glue dots to assemble her bows, so I'm going to give that a try today. And I've die cut, so this bow is, I've used artistic bows a lot on here. This one is from Partial Cut Bouquet and a Bow. It's a 2-piece die, but that bow is just such a great staple. Super fun, so it's worth this set, even if you're not into the florals, although the florals are super fun and great for really simple card fronts, but I really love that bow in there. I know Leah uses it all the time. So what I die cut is the base layer and the little band from that same Marigold cardstock. And then I used red cardstock for this. And one trick on this to get this smooth, this is my jewel picker, but generally I use a pencil or a pen or something. You just want to kind of curl it around. That's going to soften that cardstock so it'll fold around a little bit smoother. It's still going to need a little more pressing down, but it just, I feel like it makes it kind of bend around a little bit better. So Dee, you got that same idea from Leah too. Awesome. Okay, so I've got that kind of curved around, which gives me a little bit of a head start on that. And then I'm going to use these little glue dots. I'm still not all that smooth with glue dots, so bear with me as and I know there's probably lots of better ways to do this, but I'm just gonna stick a little glue dot on there, press it into the middle, grab another one and do the other side. These are super easy to assemble, which is very awesome as well. All right, and then I'm gonna add a glue dot here to the center of that. And then I'm going to go ahead and turn that over and adhere that down in the center. Like I said, this is like the easiest bow die to assemble pretty much ever. Okay, more on the back. So alternatively, you can do this with liquid glue. And if you did it with liquid glue, I suggest using like some little reverse tweezers. Once you get it assembled, use something like that to kind of hold it together. In fact, in a lot of ways, I'm just bending that around the back there. And I think that's actually going to hold pretty well. I don't think I folded that perfect. There we go. So for now, I'm just going to pinch it closed there with those reverse tweezers. And that's just, or a clothespin. I think that's another suggestion there. But that's just going to let that glue dot kind of dry on there, I guess, get a good hold, nice tight hold. I know, and the bow, and the great thing too, this is a 3-dimensional project. This is not a card. I do not have to worry about fitting in an envelope. It can totally be big and bumpy and dimensional, and nobody cares. All right, let's set that out of the way. And then I think that has set and dried sturdy on there enough, but now you can see that's got that great little bit of dimension on there, and it's all set in place. So let's move on to our other sentiments and our florals here. Okay, so first off, and I forgot, of course, wait, do I have, I think I do. I think I do have a panel here, yep, of white cardstock that's big enough for my sentiments. Oh yes, that's good. I forgot to grab one. I always keep my scraps. All right, so this is Merry and Bright frame. The fonts of the sentiments on here are so crazy fun. We just love them. I know Leah and I have used these a lot this year for Christmassy projects. And there's also, so this same project, you could use, notice how similar in size the oval frame on here, especially if you need it a little wider for cupcakes or whatever. That would be a great one to put on there too. So we're going to go ahead and start with that Good Cheer sentiment. I'm going to heat emboss this in gold. So embossing buddy, the powder tool, to make sure nothing sticks where I don't want it to. And where did I put? Oh, there it is, my embossing ink. Because I'm embossing this in gold, I really love to take advantage of my MISTI and stamp it a few times. So I'm going to stamp it a couple times there. I might even just go crazy and do it 3 times just because it makes sure I get a really good, really great impression there. Okay, clean that off and put that out of the way, and then let's get our gold heat embossing on here. We'll die cut this in just a minute. I'm going to go ahead and do the heat embossing at least on this one first. And then let's do the florals, and then we can just die cut everything right at the end all at the same time. Make things a little bit easier. I'm going to need that gold embossing powder again in a minute. But let's do this here. All right. How pretty is that? I love gold embossing things. Okay, I think I have another scrap or 2 of paper here. Let's see if these are big enough. I think they are. Okay. So what I'm going to do here is we're going to use this for that pretty little floral. And this is kind of a mini, let me pull this off again. It's this little one here, and it's actually a really simple little 3-part layering stamp, and it has a coordinating die in this set. So here is the trick I found. I did this backwards yesterday. You might notice I have the stamp layers on there, and then I have gold embossing. Yesterday I heat embossed, then stamped the layers, but I ended up with a little ink on top of the heat embossing that kind of smudged on my fingers. Fortunately, it didn't get on the rest of the project, but here's another, I didn't think of it yesterday, or I probably should have done it then. But here's another little trick. I'm going to start by stamping it just in warm buff soft ink. I don't need it super dark. I just need it enough that I can see the outline to stamp all my layers in there. And it's probably way darker than I even need it to be, but I'm still just going to roll with that anyway, because I'm going to heat emboss over that now. But what I have to do to be able to do that is I need to leave this lined up right where it is there. So I'm going to spin this around. We're going to do the other layers over on this side. Does that make sense? Because now I know that's perfectly lined up, and it'll match up just right to heat emboss over that. Okay, these layers line up super duper easy, but they're upside down because I flipped my stamp around. So just have to bear with me as I get my brain rounded up to make sure I'm lining them up right. And I just look over the top. It's nothing crazy fancy or anything like that. And I'm going to put this here because that one was, yeah, getting in the way of that. All right, so that first layer is our green. It's the leaves. So I'm going to stamp that with key lime. Again, my colors were kind of inspired by those treats that I'm putting inside this. So I'm going to stamp that on there. I'm actually going to go ahead and stamp it twice. I don't need to, but since I'm not gold embossing, I might as well get a nice bold impression. And then I'm going to put this one on there, and we're going to do the exact same thing on this other one. So it's kind of an easy assembly line sort of way to do this. There's the leaves. Hi, oh, I see Carissa popped on there. I hope you're feeling better, Carissa. I've been thinking of you. So Cheryl, generally it changes a little bit from one week to the next, but usually on Tuesday afternoon is a YouTube live. And that is, for me, it's 1 p.m. Central Time. Lining up that next layer there. And then Wednesday and Thursday, Wednesday is a scrapbook live, 10 a.m. Pacific time. And then the same time the next day on Thursday is usually when I do a Facebook live. If you sign up for emails on our website, that's the best way to get that info. And I forgot to say, this is Berrylicious ink. So there's weekly emails that Leah sends out. And right before the lives, about 15 minutes before, she sends an email just with notification. And if you follow the Pinkfresh Instagram page too, you can keep an eye on the stories. It's always posted there, usually roughly an hour before the live starts. Okay, so that is layer number 2. The last layer here is this one, all those little berries. Isn't that fun how just easy these are to line up? You just layer them over and you can kind of see where the outline is pretty easily. Okay, so this last layer, so we did key lime, we did Berrylicious, and this last layer I did with passion fruit, kind of a deep pink, just kind of a happy, fun color. All right, stamp that on there, and I kind of like doing this. This was stamped with that warm buff ink, so it's almost like a no line effect on here, which is kind of fun and different, but we're going to heat emboss over it because I think that gold effect is just too good to pass up, and especially with all the gold we got going on here. So, all right, so I'm going to reverse this back over to this side again now. I'm going to run that powder tool over this again, and then we're going to, because I left it lined up in here, I know it's perfectly aligned. And now I can just stamp that on. Again, I'm going to do it 2 times just because I can. And then I'm going to stamp over this one the same way. And let's get those magnets stuck together. Same thing on this one. I need the powder tool because some of that ink might not have fully dried. It should be okay. Ideally, giving a little more time for these to dry in between probably would be a wise idea. I'm not always the smartest person, but we'll see how well it works. If a little extra gold sticks on there, I figure there's worse problems, right? I'm just gonna clean that up here in a minute. We'll sprinkle that gold embossing powder. Then we're ready to finish our die cutting and final assembly. Oh, and you know what? Yeah, that other ink had not dried as well as maybe it should have. But it's still getting the embossing powder over and then just giving it a good flick from the other side seems to be working pretty well to get any extra off. Again, it'll just kind of have some extra little sparkles. So ideally give a little more time for that to set in between. Or alternatively, if I thought of this, I would have done it this way. You can heat set in between, like before adding the embossing powder. You could heat set so that dye ink had a little more time to dry. It's not technically made for embossing, but any wet ink will stay wet a little bit. All right. That's not too bad. I think we can work with that. You see those there? All right, so let's do a little bit of die cutting now, shall we? So the same stamp set that we just used here, the Marian Bright, has these awesome coordinating dies. So I'm going to use the little one for that and the good cheer for that. I'm gonna line this up right over the top of this. Oop, and then I had it perfect and then my fingers moved. All right, I think that worked pretty well. We'll see if I had that. And then I'm gonna do the same thing here. I'm hoarding the last of my little roll of purple tape, trying to make it last. Just gonna line this one up. And then I'm gonna run over to my die cut machine and we'll run these through real quick. I'll be right back. Okay, layer number one there. Aside here, I need to do that other little flower here. Okay, one more. That does that. Okay. Hello, Heidi from snowy, windy Wyoming. Where in Wyoming do you live? I'll probably miss it, but we lived in Wyoming for a couple of years and it still holds a rather special place in my heart. I love Wyoming. We still have a lot of really good friends there too. Yes, gold, Maggie, I agree too. I'm able to read comments here while I pull off dies and such. And just because I'll forget if I don't do it right away, I'm gonna just pop out those little extra pieces there. There. Just because if they don't come out and I don't die cut them, and I pull it out next time and they're in my way. Evanston, we drove through Evanston quite a lot. We lived in Pinedale, so we would go down to Salt Lake City to go shopping pretty frequently. All right, time for final assembly here. Our bow is ready. I have the sentiment I used on both of these is from Merry Days. There's a lot of just really awesome sentiments on this stamp set. Aside from just a fun image, Leah used this one on a live here a couple weeks back, I think. But on this one, I used Good Tidings for Christmas and a Happy New Year. I thought it went really well with the Good Cheer. And I thought I would just shake it up today and do May Your Season Sparkle with Magic. So I'm going to adhere that, I think, a little more of an angle today. Yesterday, I kind of put it on a little more straight, but I think I want to do a little more of an angle and a little bit of. We loved it there, Heidi. Pinedale is gorgeous. It is cold though for this Western Washington girl. I had to adjust to the cold a little bit, but it was fun. Okay, so Leah has done this before, kind of like this frame where she die cuts it a couple extra times from white cardstock to layer up. However, there are a few spots on here I felt like I could make work to fit. Oops, went a little too thick there. That I could fit on some longer, more reasonably sized bits of foam adhesive. So I just decided instead of doing extra die cutting there, I would just take the few extra seconds to trim down some little bitty pieces. So again, not something you have to do, but I'm just weird enough that we all know dimension is life. So you gotta do the dimension however you can do the dimension, am I right? So for me, this was how it worked. So I think I could go, let's see, let's do one more little bit. Just for, oops, a little bit of stability there. Add a little in the center there and a little bit across there. And I think I'm gonna just call that good. Save that extra. And then I'm also gonna put foam adhesive here on the back of this. Okay, and incidentally, we need a little bit of foam adhesive so I didn't get those popped out. We'll fix that. A little bit of foam adhesive on the back of these. So we'll just get all that foam adhesive done all at once. Okay, let's lay this out here before I adhere everything on and commit. You all know how that goes, right? All right, I'm liking that. So let's get, and I'm putting foam on the florals and also putting them up on top of the dimensional bow. So again, this isn't a card. I'm gonna go as dimensional as I possibly can, just because I can, for no other reason. Oh, 57, you're not, I think we're in the 40s here. 81 in Southern California. I could take some of that about now. Although I have to admit, I like the snow if it's gonna be cold. It's just been cold and rainy lately. And I think I'm kind of over that. Okay, and it's perfect because I didn't put foam behind that, so I could kind of rest that on my floral there. And then we can add our sentiment. That one tucked. Let's tuck that kind of around there, I think. That'll work. Okay, now I'm gonna wait to put the bow on until I get this assembled. Oh, and then in London, that's somewhere else I want to visit someday. Looking at all these places and it makes me want to travel. All right, I'm gonna use, so either way you do this, it really doesn't matter. But for the front, I'm gonna use that as the bottom layer. That way it just has the smoother, I don't know if that makes sense, but a little more finished front on it. So I'm gonna add a little bit of good sturdy adhesive tape here to the inside of this piece. And then I can peel that off. And it's just as simple as taking these to adhere together on here. Lining them up. All right, we are almost done. Isn't it fun just how, again, I did do some die cutting in advance, but the slowest part of this is the die cutting, which is pretty nice and simple and easy. Okay, so before I put the bow on, because that bow is going to go right at the top there, I want to, again, there's so many different ways you can do this, but I have my little treats here, and I found for me, the best thing I could do was to kind of get it settled inside there, and I got them folded just about to the right height. And then any stapler would work. I have my, this is a Tim Holtz, it's called a tiny attacher. It's kind of like little mini staples. And by taking at the top and just doing one quick little staple there, it's holding my treat bag in there now, nice and stable and steady. And it also holds the top of that together. You could also punch holes and tie a ribbon bow through if you wanted. But now I can either use a glue dot, but I think on this I'm going to use a touch of liquid glue because I feel like my other one, my glue dot, kind of wanted to spin and turn a little bit more. But I'm going to put that right over that staple because it's going to hide that. And then I'm going to hold that in place there with my reverse tweezers until that glue just dries a little bit. And that's how easy this is to put together. I can't wait to try it with different seasons. And I think I saw someone comment on there talking about making like homemade cookies. I also think like homemade Christmassy popcorn or anything like that would be super fun. Heidi, yes, die cutting, it is life-changing. I love just all the fun variety you can get with die cutting. Let's see. Keeping up on the comments. And yes, just like Kinnery said, change out the stamp set and the sentiment and add different florals or just any other kind of fun little embellishment. And it would work for Valentine's Day, for, I mean, birthday parties, teacher gifts, all kinds of fun things like that. Little hot cocoa mix would be fun to put inside. coffee. I mean, like those little, my husband's a coffee drinker, so some of the fun little mini coffees, you could adjust the size on this to fit, tuck a couple of those in there. And if you didn't want to staple at the top, you could throw some glue dots or something on the bottom to hold them upright and in place. Lots and lots of fun options. So I'm going to tip that up a little. I don't know if that'll hold yet, but I can pop it back in place in a minute. So two different, I actually use slightly different gold cardstock. One was the rose gold and one was more of a yellow gold. So very similar, just with some teensy tiny differences on there. And I see today's winner. Pop this back on and make sure that dries fully before I'm gonna flip the camera around so I can say goodbye to you guys. But Jean Turner was today's winner. Congratulations. Good time to go do some shopping here. All right, get that flipped around. And I'm gonna catch any last comments or questions that anyone has. Yay, Jean, perfect timing. Get the bow die, that's perfect. Love it. Yes, everyone needs the bow dies. The artistic bows is another great bow die as well, if you haven't seen that one. Use that. All right, so just a reminder, no Facebook Live on Thursday, but tomorrow's Scrapbook Facebook Live with Joko will still be going tomorrow, which is noon Central Time, 10 a.m. for me. And I'll look forward to seeing you then. And then we should be back with some lives again next week. So I hope everyone has a very Merry Christmas, since I won't see you again. I'll be moderating tomorrow and see you then. But have a great Christmas, and I'll look forward to seeing you